Okay, as you know, the project's use of mobile technology to enhance the use of commercial services at the airports. And my hypothesis was the use of mobile technology can enhance the use of commercial services widely. And the aims of and objective of these projects were, the aim was to actually investigate into the commercial services, the importance of them, commercial services to the airports, and then how it can be used by the non-users, and investigate how non-users, how they utilize their time at the airports right now, and then how we can sort of enhance them to use the website, like influence them to actually use the website or the commercial services. And for that, I looked into user behavior. So I thought my plan was to look into user behavior, commercial services, how I can link them together with the technology, so that overall the technology can enhance the use of commercial services. And the objectives were to look into commercial services, user behavior, and technology, and obviously develop a back-end system, then test the system, then develop a smartphone client, research into localization, and draw any conclusions and do a critical analysis on what I make. And the progress so far is I've done my research methodologies. I've researched secondary research, primary research, literature review, that includes secondary research, and data analysis. I've developed the project, made the app, and now I need to just write up. So all the software system development cycle is finished now. So I just need to go back and write what I've done so far, and all the research that I did during that time. Research methodology mainly covered all the books, articles from airport management, and it covered the articles from some sort of user behavior, how they get influenced by other users, so that I can see whether they will get influenced, whether when people use the apps, so will they get influenced by other people, seeing that they're using the app and talk about it, and then sort of use the app as well. If you sort of advertise it, will they use the app or not? So I looked into user behavior for that, and so I used newspaper articles from the future technology, and I used the article which aimed at airports, that what researchers think the future of airports will be within the technology. And according to that, they're saying that if technology takes over, then a lot of people will use the services, and it will sort of minimize the time period. So there's usually, now at the moment the waiting time is 90 minutes, so it will probably decrease that because everything will be done through technology. So even if the commercial services are on smartphone, then people won't have to sort of go into the shops. They can probably like look through things and go there and get the things, and that will be less time consuming. And my primary research included questionnaires and looking at current mobile apps. Like, there are apps that I found out there are apps that are only aimed at a specific airport, and therefore overall airport, not just the commercial services. So I discovered that if there is something just focusing on one thing, people will use it more because they will know they just want to use commercial services, and there's app that's there to use the commercial services. They won't have to look through any other things, and it will be more straightforward. And the questionnaire that I created, there were two sets of questionnaires. First, focused more on the overall problem, how people are using the services, whether they like it. If people are not using the services, what are they doing instead? And from that, I found out people are spending their times on their iPads, whether they're reading books or whatever. It's always on the technology. They're always using the technology because they find it more interesting than the environment around them. So, and then when I asked them, would they use the services if there was an app for it? And I think 80% agreed to that. They will use the services because the reasons behind that were that because it won't change their lifestyle. They're still using the same device to look into the services. So it's not really changing any sort of their lifestyle. They don't have to walk around to look into the services, and they find things quick. So they know if they want to buy a product, they can search into it and check the price, and probably with the localization system, they can navigate to it and get the product, and then that will be very less time consuming, and that will enhance the use of commercial services. And questionnaire 2 focused on this more on the solution. I had an idea of solution, so I tested, sort of put into the questionnaire and tested it. What would they like? Would they like a web-based app? Or because people didn't know what web-based app is, I explained it to them, but still majority agreed to a native app because it's on their home screen, they can access it and they know it's just there. They don't have to put in any links or anything. And on top of that, native mobile apps usually provide more functionality than web-based apps. However, web-based app can be used for the people who don't have smartphones. So I've discovered that it has to be a solution that would cover majority of the group, and my population, my data were random, included random sampling, and the questionnaire was distributed between 40 to 42 people, so it was a normalized data, and it sort of supported the hypothesis as well, because it showed that I need to make a mobile app which will have localization, all the details about the product, and everything that relates to a commercial service. And there was a correlation between when I asked the users at the first, how often do you use the commercial services? 48% said they do not use the commercial services at all. At the end of the questionnaire, when all the facilities I spoke about the application, the last question was, after considering all these, would you use commercial services if an app was to be given to you? And 90% agreed to that. They would use the commercial services if there was more information provided to them, because individuals just seek information, they just want information, and if it's handed to them, they would actually utilize the commercial services more than normal. My system development cycle just looked at requirements, which are location, product information, all the products that are in the commercial services, and they should be classed by their types so that they can search by their types, rather than if they're looking for anything to do with tobacco, they can just go into it and then search products relating to it, rather than looking through all the products. So it's sort of split into a specific products for them, so that they just have to follow one route and they'll get all the information. Planning and research included articles again, how is localization done, how can a jQuery mobile app be turned into a native app using PhoneGap and Cordova, and looked at PhoneGap. PhoneGap doesn't offer a functionality of adding plugins to it, whereas Cordova can allow adding plugins. So you can probably add a camera plugin, a Bluetooth plugin, and then you can change the settings of it, configure it, and then it will work with the app. And I've designed it and then I've implemented it. So I've got an app that shows that's all the products and everything, and then I've researched into Bluetooth beacons, made a beacon, and then tested it. It does work within the range of 10 to 20 meters. So it does pick up the beacon is there. So Cordova can probably use to change the configuration file and then probably put Bluetooth into it, and then that will work with the app as well. And application development used JSON, Ajax, PHP, HTML, and jQuery mobile templates, themes and stuff. And then Raspberry Pi was used to make the iBeacon. Raspberry Pi can also be used to actually put my database onto it, so that I'm not running it off a Creative Server now. So everything runs off Raspberry Pi, and that's the beacon. So it will be all one in one thing, and that's it.
This app has been designed to focus on the airports. If you go on airports, it will give you the list of all the airports under a specific place, and then all the shops under that specific airport, followed by the type of products under the shop at that specific airport. And then the user can get all the products under the type, and then the details could be obtained from there. This app has been designed focusing on all the airports. This app can be used by a user at any airport, and it's very sort of targeted at products, so the details of the products can be obtained very easily. Sufficient information can be sort of achieved under a small period of time. And this app also gives a functionality to browse through the restaurants and cafe and other, like the airports, it will just give option to select airport, and then all the cafes and restaurants, the user can get the details. Other function that I sort of researched into is iBeacons. On the homepage, there's an option called Locate, which hasn't been implemented yet, but the idea behind that is I've used Raspberry Pi to turn it into an iBeacon. So when the user clicks on Locate, it should sort of give them a map, but what I've researched into is using Light Blue app, it can tell you all the beacons that are near that specific area, measures about 10 to 20 meters, and my Raspberry Pi shows on that app, showing that there's a beacon that is present with that UUID. And if I had to implement this, I would have a floor map like this, where a beacon is placed in the shop, and then when the user's walking, you will recognize the shop. However, there are limitations on using Bluetooth beacons, because Bluetooth radio frequency is blocked by water, which means human body is made of water, and the Bluetooth radio frequency can be blocked off by human body. If the phone is kept inside the pocket, the iBeacon will not travel through the body, which means there's a specific position that the user has to stand in order to make sure the beacon signals sent by iBeacon should be received by the mobile phone. Also, there's another problem is that Bluetooth and Wi-Fi have shared the same frequency spectrum, which means that if there is Wi-Fi, which there will be at the airports, then the frequency will interfere, the Bluetooth frequency and the Wi-Fi frequency will interfere, which can sort of lead to probably traffic. So, I mean, there are solutions that have been invented to avoid this, which are just turn off the Wi-Fi on your phone, but that will not work on the user's mobile phone, because the app that you're using is sort of using the internet. There are the other limitation just overall is the fact that Bluetooth iBeacons only work on version 4.0 on mobile phone, which means the latest Android and iOS phones are the only ones that will be able to use these iBeacons. But there is jQuery mobile application available to the other users, even the users who do not have smartphones. They can use the jQuery mobile website. But in the long run, this might be a good solution, because people are more going towards smartphones, so they might be able to take advantage of this. And new devices usually consist of Bluetooth version 4.0. The other thing that I've looked into is further improvements that I need to make. I need to look into graph database instead of using SQL, because graph database is sort of uses graph structures which consist of nodes, edges, and properties for the entities. Entities are just airports, products, and shops in this case. So it will graph database are better to use because they are quicker and they do not require any SQL. They use no SQL, and they are easy to work with, and they sort of are compatible with object-oriented apps, maps quite good with object-oriented maps applications. So, and it will probably map quite well with the Android application that I'm developing. So that's one thing I need to look into. I need to extend the use of Cordova framework, and probably look into how Bluetooth functionality can be implemented into Cordova. I probably need to expand into the limitations of Cordova, and I need to see how this app can be used on other platforms too. That's it.